This is the first video in a series of videos where I'm going to show you how I made this miniature scene inspired by The Nightmare Before Christmas. In this video I'll show you how I made the base of the miniature, and links to the other videos will be in the description below. I made the base out of some cardboard and cut out holes for where the light bulbs will come out and also where the light switch for the lights will be. I covered the entire base with paper mache, just using plain paper and watered down craft glue. Once the glue was dried, I painted the whole thing black. Even though it's mostly going to be covered in things, I just wanted it to be black to start with and make sure that no white will show through. I wanted the edge to look like a stone wall, so I used rectangle pieces of egg carton and glued them around the edge with craft glue. Then I filled up all the gaps at the bottom with some more egg cartons. It's much easier to trim them off later when they're dry than to cut them to shape now, so I just made them really long. I covered all of the egg cartons with some watered down glue to make them really strong, and also to stop the paint from soaking into the egg cartons so much. Once it was all really dry, I cut off all those excess pieces and then started to paint. First I painted the whole thing with a dark grey colour, and then I added some other types of grey, one with a little bit of brown, one was a lighter grey and one was a darker grey. So I just painted individual pieces of the stonework with those colours. I gave it a dry brush with a little bit of white paint, and then put on some black wash and some brown wash to make it look nice and grimy and dirty. You can see here I've also made the stonework on top of the base. I did exactly the same as the sides, just with smaller pieces of egg carton. I made the ground in between the stonework with polymer clay, so I put down a piece of cling film and then pushed the clay into the gaps. I used an embossing tool to make the texture on top of the ground. Once you've made it, you can take it off the base and off the cling film and then bake it in the oven for about 15 minutes. Once the pieces were baked and then cooled, I glued them down onto the base. Next, I made the stone walls and the cemetery gates, also out of polymer clay. So I cut small pieces of polymer clay and then rolled them around in my fingers to make them look kind of like stone shaped. And to build the little walls, I just got different shaped and sized stones and built them up on top of each other, using liquid clay in the middle to hold all the pieces together. Next, I gave the stone some texture using a brush and a needle tool and an embossing tool. I also used the polymer clay to make some little columns for the cemetery gate and also some rocks to put around the scene, and then I baked them all in the oven for about 20 minutes. Once I've baked them and then let them cool down, I sponged them with a bit of lighter grey paint, leaving the gaps in between the stones darker, and then I dry brushed them with a bit of white paint and then put some black and brown wash on top. Finally, I glued the polymer clay stone pieces into place. So that's how I made the base for this scene. If you want to see the rest of the videos, I will put the links in the description below. Happy Halloween!